Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Joanne Smedley, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal James Heed. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors. Please stand and join in the singing of the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we pay tribute to Sapper Jack Clinton Nixon. Born in Cobar in the central west of New South Wales on the 3rd of November 1914, Jack Clinton Nixon was the son of William and Elsie Nixon. He had two brothers, Bob and Bill. After leaving school, Jack Nixon worked as a miner. On the 26th of July 1943, Jack married Alice Marjorie Nicholson in Sydney. Together they had a daughter, Mary Nixon. At the time of his mobilisation and voluntary enlistment in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force in February 1945, Nixon had been working as a cutter in Sydney for the Colonial Sugar Refining Company. Shortly after his enlistment in May 1945, Nixon was posted to the 1st Training Battalion, Royal Australian Engineers, at the large Australian Army training base at Kapuka. On the afternoon of the 21st of May, two groups were crowded within a dugout during a routine demolition training exercise on the preparation of hand charges. Inside the dugout was 110 pounds of explosives that were stored for the day's training exercise. In circumstances that remain unknown to this day, the explosives ignited. In the explosion, 24 men were killed instantly. 2 died of injuries shortly afterwards, and 2 more were severely injured. Sapper Jack Nixon was one of those killed in the accident. He was 31 years old. A large funeral was held for the men in Wagga Wagga on the 24th of May. Thousands of people lined the route of the funeral parade. The 26 flag-draped coffins were carried on 4 army trucks. The cortege included over 100 military vehicles carrying members of the Army and Air Force. The dead were buried in the Wagga Wagga War Cemetery. Jack Nixon's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sapper Jack Clinton Nixon, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and good evening.